Hi everyone, welcome back to the summit. I'm very excited today. I have a very special guest here today that I have been following for about 4 years. I've been following this brand, so I'm very happy to have Duncan here today from Brand Snob. Brand Snob, like I said, has been around for about 4 years now and has changed a lot over the years, which is really interesting, and I'm sure we'll find out a little bit about that. So I'm just going to read some notes because I don't want to get anything wrong. David actually started because they were working on their own project at the time and realized that there was no help trying to find influencers. So this has come completely from the heart, which is fantastic. And the great thing about Brand Snob, like I said, the whole idea of this summit is to bring you all the different things that are out there, the different types of platforms that are available, the different things that you can use as a merchant. And Brand Snob is very different from some of the other platforms that we've actually interviewed in this summit. So the differences are that they actually work on two different systems. They have a paid system and a gifting system. And I think today we're going to concentrate on the gifting system. I know that a lot of merchants would love to work more with the gifting side, not having to pay an upfront huge amount of money. So the gifting system that they use allows people to pay just a one-off fee and then work with a multitude of different influencers, which is fantastic. So we will find out more about that. But we also want to find out more about just what they see as campaigns that are working. And we're going to find out some great information about brands that they've worked with that have had some really good success. The other thing that we love about Brand Snob is that they actually vet all the influencers themselves manually. So some influencers have tried to get on their platform and can't, but that's because Brand Snob actually checks it out. So when you're using Brand Snob, you don't have to worry about vetting the influencers because Brand Snob has already done it. So let's talk to David because I'm really excited to get into this. He's actually going to be presenting a slide presentation as well today to help us understand the influencer marketing a little bit better. So hi, David, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Hi, Caroline, and hi to all the store owners. Nice to be here.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. I know that you're very, very busy these days, so thank you for taking the time to do this. We're all very excited to have you here. So can you introduce yourself a little bit, tell us more about how you got started and a little bit more about what you do at Brand Snob?
Yeah, sure. Look, I was talking to Caroline before, and Brand Snob's been around for about 4 years now. I'm one of the co-founders. There's two co-founders part of Brand Snob, but we're actually a group of people that came together after we saw the opportunity in the market. We were working on one of our own projects, and we were trying to find influencers for that project, and we realized it was a really difficult process. In fact, at that time there was only a few options available, and some of those options are quite expensive. You're talking about putting down $20,000 up front to get to use one of the platforms. So from our perspective, we thought that was all too hard, and we said there's got to be a better way. A couple of the people that worked for our company were actually influencers, and that really allowed us to dig into what was important for them as well. And that was something that we always wanted to make sure we were doing correctly, is creating a marketplace that was beneficial both to the brands and the influencers. And so we went through a phase of testing a few different concepts, and the original Brand Snob was a bit like Tinder for brands and influencers. It was a swipe right, swipe left, get a match, and start talking. And at that point, we had no commercial interest in making money out of the system. It was really just testing that concept, and we introduced a lot of brands to a lot of influencers, and we proved that if we can make it simple for brands and simple for influencers, they're going to collaborate together nicely. So the next phase for us was really trying to commercialize that, and we started then to build a platform around a booking system. And that brought some certainty as well, because when we're looking at influencer marketing, one of the things that brands definitely want is some certainty around booking influencers. It's all great that you can chat and DM influencers on Instagram or on another messaging system, but we wanted to bring a bit of a contractual base to the negotiation and make it simple for brands to not only find those influencers, but actually put something in concrete in terms of what the job's about. So that was really important for us. And so this next phase for Brand Snob has been about making that process really simple for brands as well. And our whole mantra, as I was sort of talking to Caroline before about, was we like to make things as easy as possible. And I think the one thing that the other co-founder and I are perfectionists in terms of interface and making things simple. And so we've labored for years and years, and sometimes over one tiny little feature on a screen, we've spent a month just debating that one little feature. And so we love to make things work for brands and work for influencers. And the app that we've created in Brand Snob right now is only an app. It's an iOS app. However, we're about to come out with a full desktop platform as well. But the iOS app is really, really smooth, and it's really easy to use for brands. And so that's been a big part of what we've been developing over the last few years, is really making that whole booking process and certainty around connecting brands and influencers a really easy thing for brands to walk through. Right now, we have some really cool things for brands in that sense too. So BrandSnob, for example, they pay for an influencer on our platform because we support both paid and gifting through BrandSnob. We guarantee that job. So if there's a issue, let's say the influencer can't complete the job for whatever reason, we refund that money. And that's something that brands like. They like that certainty, knowing that we've got their back on those type of collaborations. And so that's where we are now. We're at a point now where we've now also really started to introduce gifting in a big way. And we see gifting as probably one of the key features of influencer marketing. It's something that influencers sometimes question. But what we've found is that even good influencers will accept gifting. And there's reasons for that. I've got a little bit of that in the presentation. But from a gifting perspective, it helps create authenticity. And that's one of the big things that as a brand you really need to look for when you're working with influencers, is a genuine relationship. And if you don't have that, and you're paying an influencer who's happy to just take money to post, sometimes the audience seeing that post is going to know. In fact, most of the time they'll know if it's not genuine. That's one thing that influencers have to be careful about themselves, is that if they're posting and accepting money for things that they're not really into, not only is it ineffective for the brand, it's actually quite bad for the influencer as well. And so gifting is one of the ways that we've found, particularly for small and emerging brands, to strike up genuine relationships with influencers and get quality content and authentic reviews out there on the social media platforms that exist. Particularly, we focus on Instagram.
Fantastic. Look, a lot of people are asking me about the gifting part of it, and I've had some great influencers on here talking about that they don't do it, and some of them saying that they do it. So it's good to have all the different perspectives. But I know from a brand, especially when you're just trying out influencer marketing, or maybe you just don't have a big budget, you want to be able to try that. I think gifting is a great way to get your toe in the water and try out whether influencer marketing works for your brand.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I mean, we often recommend to brands, come on and try a gifting campaign, and you'll be surprised. I mean, most people who are running gifting campaigns are getting hundreds of offers from influencers who want their product and want to work with them. So that's a really good response that they get. If they want to work with some specific influencers that may not accept gifting, they've got that option within our platform as well. And that's one of the features that we have, is that you can actually reach out to influencers on our platform as well. So there's a two-way level of communication. They come to you, but at the same point in time, you can approach specific influencers. And some of those influencers will want to be paid, and that's fair enough, but it's up to you to negotiate that. And we talk about being fair in that negotiation and being reasonable in that negotiation, because that's what influencers want. Ultimately, if they love your product, they may just accept it and do it for the product itself. And particularly when they see a long-term relationship, one of the things we do talk about, and I'll talk about later in the presentation, is particularly influencers want to tell stories to their audience as well. And so if they're just accepting paid collaborations from a few select brands, that doesn't really give them much diversity. And so they're definitely wanting to tell new stories and help their audience and their followers discover new things as well. And often, that's a cool little brand that is not able to pay them, but they love their product. And so we find gifting's a really important process for brands and influencers to strike out together, particularly in the early days. And then as that relationship builds and forms, it may become a paid relationship later on.
Yeah, fantastic. For everyone watching, if you haven't seen Alex's interview with me yet, then you need to watch it, because that is all about an influencer who gets 1 million views a month on her website. She does blogging and Instagram and YouTube, and she actually refuses to take paid campaigns anymore. She's actually gone completely...